All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the build of the PC-6 turbo porter aircraft. I got to stop spinning because I'm getting dizzy. We're standing inside the paint booth, the do-it-yourself paint booth. Let's roll that intro, and we'll talk about some stuff. All right, guys, I'm standing inside the do-it-yourself paint booth that I set up in my garage. So I'll take you outside and kind of show you Actually, I'll show you the inside stuff first, and then I'll take you outside and show you the outside stuff and how it's kind of all structured. So I built a mezzanine when I moved into my house, and that's what's here. If you guys have watched the videos, you probably have seen it, sort of. But yeah, anyways, I built the mezzanine. It's about 8 feet by 8 feet. And it's a good size. Stores a lot of crap up there. So I'll flip you around and I'll show you kind of what I did here with the paint booth. All right, so I've done this a couple times in the past and it works out quite well. So basically I cover the entire ceiling with heavy poly. And then what I do is I run poly all the way around the perimeter and then lay some on the floor. And then I drop because the poly's folded in half. And then I put some on the floor and then I lay everything down and tie it all together. So if you look, everything's tied, all the joints are tied, and that's how it works. There's the entrance and exit. I don't have a zipper or anything, but I'll just tape that closed basically. There's the intake air. So all I use is furnace filters. The intake air, the reason to use filters is to keep the air clean and keep it dust free. So basically when I do this, I just tape the air filter onto the poly and then go to the other side, the outside, cut the plastic out, and you've got intake filtration. If you don't cut an opening, the entire tent like collapses. And then I've got my output filtration, so I'll show you the fan setup there. That's actually a fan used for like bouncy castles and stuff. But so what I do is I find a box that's suitable to fit the furnace filter that's a little bit smaller. Put the box up and I'll show you the box stuff. But basically we've got the filter all sealed. And then while I'm spraying and using this, I just take another filter and set it up there. I can put some masking tape on the top, because it's going to be sucking out quite a bit of paint and I want to be able to change that filter. So anyways, that's the inside portion of the tent. All right, and here is the outside. So there's the mezzanine up there, lots of plain and junk stuff up there. But yeah, so it's basically, I think it's about 8 feet by 8 feet that I have set up. And this is my output fan device. So that's the fan there that I use. Again, it's like a fan for bouncy castles and stuff. So it works quite well, moves a lot of air. And then I just hook up this dryer hose to it. It's getting a little bit short now, but it looks like it doesn't fit underneath the door. But when the air is blowing through it, I just open up the door just a crack and I shove the hose underneath and it blows a ton of air out. So that, my friends, is the do-it-yourself paint booth. Works amazing. In this episode of the PC-6 build, we are painting. Well, we're priming, actually. Not painting, priming. But we will be priming in this video. So lots of cool stuff happening. I still have all the surfaces to go over. I was actually out at my house today working and didn't get any time to do any of the prep work, but I did get the paint booth built tonight. So if you watched the last video, I left off with just not doing this yet, but I said I was going to do this. So anyways, we have filled the that kind of flat spot on the wing, and just as I'm running my hand over this, I can still feel a little bit of a flat spot. That could be that area right there that I have kind of a rib on. Anyways, so I'm going to sand those down. We need to go over all the surfaces and prep everything out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all that stuff, and then I'll show you guys before I start spraying, and I will show you kind of the process of spraying. So I wanted this video to be more specifically on the painting, on the priming side, and so I'm not going to talk about or show you the prep for the surfaces because we've already done some of that stuff before and nothing's changed. So I'm going to get all this stuff ready, guys. It's probably going to be tomorrow before we are ready to prime, but I will show you all the steps that I use to prime, and I will try and be as thorough as possible. Because we don't have a lot of space in our spray booth, we do have to have some considerations on how we're going to spray things. So I'm not going to be able to do all of the fuselage and wings and all that stuff all at the same time. We're going to have to do them in stages, but I can spray kind of close to the output side, and then because I've got the mezzanine up there, I can hang stuff from the mezzanine. So I'm going to hang the wings vertically and spray the wings like that, and then I'll be able to unhook them, move them over to like the far corner where the air input side is, and I'll be able to do like the wings and probably all the surfaces at one time, and then we'll do the fuselage by itself most likely. Anyways, I've been talking for a while now, so I will, when I get back to you guys, we will be getting ready to prime. All right, guys, just getting stuff prepped on all the surfaces. So basically I'm taping everything off that I don't want to get paint on. These end hinge points or ball joints, they're a little bit difficult, so I'm not going to worry about those. But one little tip here for you. If you have a screw-in point, just take a drill bit and drill it in there. So all I did here, because I haven't fastened the wing struts on yet, what I've done is just drilled a hole in the center of the hard mount for the wing struts, and then basically just space it out on both sides of that hole. And then also on the elevators, which are inside the booth already, where the Robart hinges are, just use my drill bit on a pin vise and drill out the holes. So then once you go through the painting process, you can still find the holes, because you got to remember everything's going to get covered up at this point. So I'm just prepping stuff out, getting it hung in the booth, getting stuff ready, and we are very, very close to being ready to paint. All right, guys, so we are just getting things ready to do the priming of the surfaces. Now, what we're going to do today is we are going to do 2 wings, 2 elevators, the horizontal stab, and both flaps. We're going to get those painted or primed, and then we are going to let them dry in the booth till tomorrow. And then tomorrow we will do the fuselage, which is hanging over there, and then all the kind of extra bits and bytes that we have to do. So I'll take you through kind of my setup right now, and I'll show you guys exactly how we have everything laid out. Okay, so my compressor, it's a decent sized DeWalt. Now, one important thing with this is not my only air tanks. I've actually got a huge 55-gallon air tank installed underneath my stairs, and that gives me extra capacity. I usually leave that plugged in, and I'm always using it, so I've actually got a ton of capacity with this compressor. Now, I do have 50 feet of air line running to my filter, my water separator and my filter. Now, you don't want to put that right at the compressor because the air coming out of the compressor is hot and it won't work as well. So you want to have some separation in between your water separator and your filter and stuff. And then I've got my other line, which is there and ready to have my spray hose plugged into it, or my spray gun. Because my spray booth doesn't have a door, because it's only temporary, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the booth, put those pails down there, and then just put a couple pieces of tape along the edge where the entrance is. So in preparation for that, I've kind of got everything that I'm going to need possible in there. I've got an extra set of gloves, some tape. That cardboard there is just to check my spray pattern before I start spraying. And then we've got all these surfaces and stuff installed in there. I did put a couple hooks in the ceiling right up here, and that is going to be where I'm doing my spraying. So it's going to be very, very close to the output line, which is there, and we've talked about that already. So protective gear, what we're using to spray this plane is Endura. It is pretty nasty stuff. It's so you want to make sure you take precautions when you're spraying any non-water-based paint, but in this case we're wearing gloves, spray suit, we've got respirator, safety goggles, and then I'm also going to put my hood up as well too, just to keep my beautiful hair pretty. So we've got our actual primer, gray I believe is what this is. We've got activator, which is there, and then we've got reducer, which is here. Now mixing on this stuff, we've got a mixing container. So mixing on this stuff, you're basically using 4 parts primer, or let's say 400 milliliters of primer. Reducer, which is activator, which is part B, 1 part that, so 100 milliliters that, and thinner, we're using 200 milliliters of thinner. So that's our ratio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this stuff mixed up, ready to go, and what I'll do is I can't bring you guys in the booth with me. I'm just going to have you on the outside here looking in, and probably not going to be able to hear me and stuff like that. So I'll go through the whole spray process. I'll record it all, but then I'll do some voiceovers if something interesting comes up. So all right, guys, well, I don't know if you can hear me because the fan's really loud, but I need to keep it on for a while. That went okay. All right, guys, so fan's off, everything's in there. Of course, it's a little bit hard to see. I don't know how much I captured in the video because as I'm spraying in this area, the entire wall's getting covered with paint because we're limited in space. So anyways, worked out fine. This is the first time I've ever used Endura, and it was I guess nothing really abnormal with it. Because this was a fill coat and it's going to be sanded, I wasn't overly worried about technique, and I was just getting the product on. So yeah, I wasn't entirely sure how far it would go. So that first batch I mixed up ended up being about 450 milliliters of material. Then I had to come out and do another batch as well, and ultimately it was fine. But yeah, so really nothing abnormal. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this stuff dry. That gives us time to prep the fuselage for the rest of the day today, and then we will get the other stuff sprayed tomorrow. Clean up on the gun. What we're using for that is the high strength gun wash. So just something to keep in mind with your gun. You don't need to disassemble your gun every single time you use it, but you can. But the problem is there's grease and stuff on some of the, and my gun's in there, but there's grease and stuff on some of the moving parts, and the fluid path is very specific. So all you're doing is cleaning out that fluid path. Usually what I do is wipe out the cup, put a little bit of, in this case, gun cleaner in there, shake it up, dump it out, put some more gun cleaner in there, shake it up, and then you don't even need air hooked up, but you just pull the trigger and it'll come through the fluid path. And then I'll do that 2 times. And then after that, what I do is I put some gun cleaner directly in the actual gun. So I take that syringe that I was using, put it in the gun, squirt it in there, and then actually hook it up to air and work the trigger. And then basically the gun's completely clean. Usually once I do that, I'll pull the cap off, look inside just to make sure and double check. But in this case, it was completely clean. So that's it, guys. For the rest of this, I'm not going to show you anything with prepping the fuselage because all we're doing is sanding down the edges of the fiberglass and stuff. And I'll be back with you tomorrow when we do the rest of the priming on the rest of the pieces. All right, guys, we are still priming away. We've got the fuselage hanging in the paint booth. There you go. maybe. And I actually put a piece of foam underneath the nose so it's not going to swing around like the problem I was having with the wings. Anyways, I think it should work good. I've got clear access all the way around it, and should be awesome. So anyways, I'm going to get the fuselage primed. Other thing I did was I'm going to do the doors as well too. Now I haven't sanded the edges and stuff because we still have to do the fitting of this, but it's not a big deal because we are just, again, filling the weave on the doors. And they're all going to get sanded as well. So we still have to sand all the edges later on. So what I've done with this is I've taken some double-sided tape and just stuck those down so they don't blow anywhere. But I'll be able to lay this down and spray this all as one entire unit. So we still have quite a few things to prime. It's going a little bit slower than I would like. And the reason for that is because when I get this stuff sprayed, it's got to stay in the booth so I can do some of it in the evening. And then I basically have to wait till the next evening, like it is now, to get stuff done. So I did the wings, another coat on the wings yesterday, doing the fuselage tonight and the doors. And then we'll have to wait till tomorrow night to do anything further. So it does take a while, just purely based on the size, right? Because I'm limited in size in the booth. So anyways, we're making it work and it's working good. Happy with this setup, and I'm happy with the way everything's working with it. It's awesome. So anyways, getting this stuff primed, and I will be back with you guys. All right, guys, maybe hard to see, but fuselage is in there and it's all primed. We got 2 nice heavy coats on there to fill the weave. So next thing I'm just kind of playing with here is just the scale bits. Now this isn't where it goes, but basically once we are done sanding the primer and redoing our primer for the second time, so a nice smooth coat if that's what you want to call it, we need to fasten all of these scale pieces on the airplane. So I'm just trying to come up with the best way to fasten those. So we've got a couple extra little pieces here that we I think were extras, and what I've done is I've sprayed 1 coat of 3M 77 adhesive on the pieces. So you might be able to see the sheen there maybe, but basically what you want to do with this stuff is when it's almost like contact cement. So when it's no longer sticky basically, then you can stick it down onto something. So I think that's how we're going to fasten the pieces onto the surfaces. The primary purpose of this first prime coat is to fill the weave. And yes, we could have done that with epoxy like a lot of guys do, but I decided to do it with primer because that's the typical way that I would do it. So that was the first point of that first coating of primer. So basically we've got to start sanding everything. That's an important thing. So essentially the next steps for me while we wait for the primer to cure is I'm going to start sanding the items that we've already primed. So I'm going to start doing that. It's really nothing exciting. We're wet sanding it. We're using like 400 grit sandpaper. If we've got there's a couple runs on one of the wings we've got to deal with, so we use something a little more aggressive. But like I told you before, anything north of 320, so 400 basically, paints out. So that's what we want to get to with all of these surfaces. We want to be sanding with 400. So, all right, so just a bit of an update for you guys. So all I'm working on is sanding these surfaces down. Now it's going to be kind of hard to show you, but obviously you can tell by the sanding pattern that basically we're taking away any of the high spots. These surfaces now are extremely smooth. There's not very many rough spots at all. There's a couple areas where we're not 100% full on the fabric, so our next coating of primer will fill that in. But on the next coating of primer, there should be a whole lot less sanding to do, and because we've done most of our sanding, or we're doing most of our sanding this time. So anyways, just continuing on with the sanding, working on the next elevator. All right guys, so that is the end of this video. I just want to throw a quick shout out to my merch on the channel. I don't know if that makes any sense, but throw a picture up here. We are going live with our hoodies. Now we don't have very many of these hoodies available, so whatever's on the site is all that's available. We will do some more runs of this, but initially we just needed to keep our run a little bit small. So check it out, link down below to the lighter side hoodies, and I think they turned out really cool. They're very similar to my one that I posted pictures about, but the hoodie's a little bit darker, so I think it looks better. So anyways, guys, unfortunately, this is the last PC-6 video. There still is some sanding to do on the aircraft and both of the wings, but we have run out of time with this project and we need to move on to other projects. So I'm going to be giving this back to the owner at this stage, and I think he probably will be finishing it up, or we'll put it on the shelf. Maybe we will revisit it in the future, but anyways, guys, it has been an absolute fun project getting it to this point, and it's been really, really cool. Thank you guys for watching and supporting this project. Now, unfortunately, as I mentioned, originally when we took this project on, we were going to bring it to the primer stage, which is kind of where we've gotten it to. Last little tip here, I don't know if you can see it on the actual fuselage, but what I like to do with the fuselage at this point is I will put little pieces of tape and black Sharpie dots where things need to be filled, sanded, things like that. And the reason I'm doing that is either the owner or myself in the future, we'd want to know where that stuff is. Some of it's pretty obvious, but just little things that I like to do. So that's it, guys. Don't forget to check out the hoodies. Thanks for watching. And if this is your first time finding my channel, give the video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and we will see you guys in the next video.